This is the Benno RemiDemi, and it's a really fun and versatile bike. It's just the sort of thing you need if you're hankering after a cargo bike, but you don't need quite that level of luggage capacity. Let us know what you think about it in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to see more from us. Hit the bell icon to get notified when we post new vids. Now what we've got here is a compact city bike with a low step steel frame and fork and 20-inch wheels. Now that's not a new concept. Small wheelers have been around a long time, and as e-bikes they're becoming more popular. That's because they offer most of the benefits of a larger wheel bike in a more compact package, which makes them easier to store. Now there are some trade-offs, and one of those often is comfort, because those smaller wheels can mean a harsher ride. You can probably see how the RemiDemi combats this. You get these enormous 4¼ moto style tyres fitted to super wide rims. And you know, they're excellent, they're grippy on the tarmac, and this huge air chamber in here does a great job of smoothing out the road surface. Often you'll see cheap suspension forks on city bikes, and just as often they're terrible. The tyres on this Benno will do a better job than most of them. They're big enough to cope with some big hits and some off-road too if you fancy it, although you can probably see it's not exactly designed for that. The frame and fork are both steel and they're neatly finished and stylish. Now this low step through here makes the bike really easy to get on and off, which is great around town. You can see that the rear rack here is integrated into the frame, and these large diameter tubes mean you can carry lots of stuff. Okay, not as much as a big long tail bike that's designed for passengers, but plenty enough to make it really practical. It's rated for 30 kilos of capacity. You'll need some kind of adapter to fit a standard pannier bag, but you can also bolt on a load of other stuff, a Yep child seat or a cargo rack for a standard crate, or even an insulated box for deliveries. Anything that uses the rack time standard should fit. And the RemiDemi will even work with a Carver surfboard rack if surfing's your thing. Now there's a front rack here too, on the head tube that will take 20 kilos. And the maximum rated capacity of the bike is 180 kilos, and that includes the 30 kilos of bike weight. So a 90 kilo rider like me could load the front and rear racks to their capacity and still have 10 kilos to spare. Incidentally, the maximum rider weight is 120 kilos. The handling of the bike is very neutral and confident. They've just resurfaced the hill on my commute, and I've been tearing down the new tarmac with every confidence in the steering and the braking. Around town you can lean those big tyres much farther than I'd ever be comfortable doing without them breaking away. The position, as you can probably see, is pretty upright. The bike has a short reach and a tall handlebar. Now Benno says that the height range for this bike is 155 to 185 centimetres, but I'm 189. I've had no issues at all with the riding position. You might run out of seat post if you're really tall, but having the saddle at the exact right height is not so much of an issue when you've got a motor taking most of the strain. Now this double seat post clamp here requires an Allen key to set the seat height, and it's not a standard size, so there's no simple option to swap to a quick release. That means that swapping between riders is a bit more involved than some of the other bikes that I've tried, but you know, the one size frame does have plenty of scope for big and small riders. Now we've recently tested Benno's Boost long-tail cargo bike too. There's a link popping up for that one now. Where the Benno Boost feels a bit more stretched out and purposeful, the RemiDemi is certainly built for cruising, but it's no slouch because it's got a 65 Nm Bosch Performance Line motor. With its steel frame and those huge tyres, it's definitely not a light bike, so it's not one to choose if you're regularly lifting your bike on your daily errands, up or down steps for instance. But the Performance Line motor is a gem. And when you're riding, you don't notice the weight at all until the gradient nudges well into double figures. I mean, it's a bit less eager than it would be in a lighter bike, but there's nothing around here that troubled it too much, and Bath is pretty hilly. The 30 kilo weight of the bike and the drag from the huge tyres is going to affect the range of the bike a bit. Now Benno's range estimate is 40 to 135 kilometres, but you'd have to be riding in some pretty optimal conditions to trouble the big number there. Now I was getting 4 laps of my 9-kilometre commute, which includes 150 metres of climbing, and that was out of this test bike's 500 watt-hour battery, where the standard spec is 400 watt-hour. Now that's about what I expect from a motor like this on a fairly heavy bike. It doesn't sound like much, But my commute's a bit all or nothing. Basically, you're either in turbo or you're freewheeling. On flatter rides, where the tour and eco modes come into play more, I'd expect to double that, but around here, where there's not much actual flat, I wouldn't ever expect to get near to 100 kilometers on a charge on this bike. It's kind of moot anyway, really. This isn't a bike designed for long journeys, although it's comfortable enough for an hour or so in the saddle. You're more likely to be considering a bike of this kind for day-to-day use about town, and it's ideal for that. It's very solidly built, with the design of the steel frame, protecting the rear derailleur well, so it's less likely to get knocked in the rough and tumble of city life. You get full mud guards as standard, integrated lighting too. It's worth noting at this point that this bike that we've had to ride isn't standard spec, as it's a pre-production sample. So as well as that bigger battery here, it has a supernova lighting system instead of a Herman's front and rear light, and a Shimano Diore rear mech instead of Shimano Sora. Those lights are probably a rung or two above the standard ones, but Diore and Sora are about the same level of componentry. They just come from the mountain bike and road bike ranges respectively. The bike here has a single kickstand, which is fine for town duties and lighter loads. Now, if you're planning to carry cargo, or especially if you're fitting a child seat for kids, you'll probably want to upgrade to a double kickstand, which holds the bike more securely and in a fully upright position. Other than that, I don't really have any complaints. Everything on the bike is solidly built and looks like it'll last. At £3,399 in the standard build with the 400 watt-hour battery and a lower spec lighting system, you wouldn't exactly call it a bargain. I mean, if you just wanted a small wheeler with a powerful motor, then the Cube Compact Hybrid Sport that we've reviewed has a not dissimilar spec for about £1,000 less. To make the numbers add up, you really need to be looking at the RemiDemi as a load carrier that's replacing car journeys. Both Benno's own Boost and the Turn GSD that we've recently reviewed, they're more practical bikes overall in terms of how much and what they'll carry, but both of them are significantly more expensive than this RemiDemi, and if you're only looking to carry one child or a weekly shop, then you should find this smaller bike has ample capacity for your everyday life. So that's the Benno RemiDemi, a great quality, almost a cargo bike. Well, it is a cargo bike really. Let us know what you think of it. Is this a sort of bike that could replace a car for you? Thanks for watching. Give us a thumbs up if you've enjoyed this vid. Cheers.